And then he proceeds to say, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have a brain tumor. You're going to die. You probably got a week to live. So I would just get my affairs in order. And I wouldn't fly back to the mainland because you're going to die. And I got so upset. It wasn't the fact that he told me that. It was the fact that he told me in front of my wife, and he didn't give me a chance to prepare her.
Yeah.
So she starts crying. My daughter's crying. Everybody's freaking out.
Welcome to the Leadership Sovereignty Podcast, where we focus on leadership principles to help you grow and excel in your career. In this week's episode, to Speak the Truth to Power Part 4, Philip talks about his experience with a brain tumor, an incredible encounter with God, and how overcoming challenges is just a part of life. Enjoy the show.
I don't know if I had told you guys that when I was at ESPN, I found out that I had a brain tumor. It was told
No.
that I was in Hawaii on a family vacation, the one we had planned for years, and I'm driving us back to the resort, and I get this really bad headache, and I had a 45-mile drive on the Big Island, and I lost sensation where I could not feel my legs. And I'm the one driving the van, and I'm thinking, oh my God, everybody's going to die. And all I could do was pray. And I was like, Father, give me sensation to stop this van. And when we finally got back to our resort, 45 miles later, I was able to just put enough pressure to slow it down so we could turn. Then I put it in park. And everybody gets out. My wife is like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I can't move. And my wife and nephew helped me upstairs. The pain got worse. They take me to the hospital. Ambulance comes, and I'm in the hospital for 12 hours. And then the doctor is having trouble helping me deal with my pain. So he gave me this sedative that made me hallucinate. And my wife became this tree, and my nephew became Roger Rabbit, and I could hear this baby screaming. And I'm telling my wife, tell that baby to shut up. And she's like, there's no baby here. I'm like, yes, it is. The baby's crying. The doctor walks in and says, yeah, there's a baby on the other side of the hospital that we can't stop crying.
Wow.
And my senses were so heightened, that I could hear. It was almost like mutant-like. And and then my wife says, what did you give my husband? And he said, well, I gave him the equivalent of medical grade LSD. And she's like, well, stop it now. So he turns it off, and then she becomes her normal self. And then he proceeds to say, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have a brain tumor. You're going to die. You probably got a week to live. So I would just get my affairs in order. And I wouldn't fly back to the mainland because you're going to die. And I got so upset. It wasn't the fact that he told me that. It was the fact that he told me in front of my wife, and he didn't give me a chance to prepare her.
Yeah.
So she starts crying. My daughter's crying. Everybody's freaking out. And I'm the one going, this happening to me, and everybody else is crying. So we leave the hospital. We get back. My son was at the time preparing for training camp because he was going to play in the NFL. And I called him and I said, look, I feel I need to tell you, the doctor said I had a tumor. They don't think I'm going to make it. I'm sorry, but is there any way you can get here and just help get your mom back home and just calm everybody? And he calls my daughter and he's like, is Daddy exaggerating or is he telling the truth? She's like, no, he's telling the truth. So my son hopped on the first plane and got to the Big Island. My wife is petrified, and she had said this look on her face. And I told her we were going to go out and just have a good time that day. And then I pulled the van over. I don't know why they let me drive, but they did. And I pulled the van over, and she's like, why did you pull the van over? And she didn't see our son was standing there, and he got on the van, and the look on her face with how calm she got. And he said, look, we're going to have a good time. There's going to be no talk of a tumor, and we're just going to enjoy each other. So we spent the next week having a blast as a family. I still was in a lot of pain, but I just kind of dealt with it. The doctor told me that the tumor will probably burst in the air, so you may not make it. So I had to deal with that fear, and I flew back to LA. Then I had to go back to Bristol, Connecticut. This is when I was working at ESPN. And I went back and went to see my CTO and told him, and he said, look, you need to go home and get your affairs in order. And one of my colleagues actually helped me and called because I was having trouble getting to see a specialist. And I went to see my doctor, and he told me you need to see an endocrinologist. And this endocrinologist in Connecticut diagnosed my tumor. And she told me that if you get operated on here at UConn, you're going to die on the table. There's only 3 places in the world that deals with this type of tumor. She said it's Mass General in Boston, Mayo Clinic in Minneapolis, or Cedars-Sinai. And since the family lived in LA, I was like, Cedars-Sinai. And I went out to LA, got to see the specialist. He took a couple weeks, and then he decided finally to do the surgery. I've been trying to talk to my wife for weeks about, look, I got this insurance policy. I want you to move on with your life. I want you to buy a house. I want you to do this, do that. She would not talk to me at all about it. And then when I'm finally at the hospital and they are putting the IVs in my arm, she goes, okay, let's talk about the insurance policy. And I'm like, why would you wait till now? But so I tell her, look, everything is here. And I'm like, if I don't make it off the table, this is what I want you to do. So then what happens is I go, they take me in, and the doctor asked me, do you mind if we allow some students to watch the surgery? And I was like, sure. And I did not know that when I said that I was about to get a tremendous blessing. And so right before then, he also says, do you mind if we lay hands on you and pray over you? Now, that's not something you see a lot of doctors do, because a lot of doctors have God complex where they think they're the one saving. And I said, sure. So everybody in that room laid hands on me and prayed over me. And then he said, okay, you ready to go to sleep? And I'm like, yeah, and I started my count from 100. I think I got to 97, and then I was out. And the surgery was supposed to be 2 hours. It took 12. I had a tumor that surrounded my pituitary gland. It had actually gotten into the cavity that protects the pituitary gland. It was causing me all types of problems where I thought I was having heart issues, and it was affecting my hormonal system. And the doctor who diagnosed it was spot on. And about hour 8, I wake up on the table, and I'm looking around, and I'm looking up, and I see the instrument. I see my brain. I see the drill. I see him operating on me. And I'm actually kind of fascinated by it. But then I heard this incredible sound. It was just the most amazing thing. And I look up and I see what we would term as angels completely surrounding the room. They had horns and harps and drums, and they were singing, and it was just, I got so calm, and it was so beautiful. It's so hard to describe. It's nothing I've ever heard before in my life. And I'm looking at them, and they're smiling at me. And because I had prayed and said, Father God, surround me with my guardian angels. All right. Someone says, he's awake. And the doctor goes to the anesthesiologist and says, put him out now. And I went back to sleep. And I wake up a few hours later, and the doctor tells me, hey, it was touch and go. We nearly lost you on the table. We had to revive you a couple times. And he said, I got 95% of the tumor. Had I got the rest, I could have nicked your carotid artery and you would have had a stroke and died on the table. So we'll have to deal with the rest via medication. And he asked me, what did you see? I said, I saw the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I said, if ever there was a doubt in my mind about the
Yeah.
presence of God,
Wow.
I no longer have that doubt.
Wow.
And he was like, okay, your family's here and you'll be in recovery for a couple more hours. I'll see you in a little bit. Go back to sleep. I wake up, someone's holding my hand. And when I wake up, it was the starting quarterback for UCLA, who was a young man I had coached for many years. And he's holding my hand. And I'm like, Kevin, what are you doing here? And he said, I heard you were having surgery. I dropped everything and I needed to be here with you, coach, because you had such an impact on my life. And he held my hand for hours and he talked to me, and I was in a lot of pain. Um, and he just told me what he meant, what I meant to him. And I told him what he meant to me. And I was so touched that this guy would drop everything. And he spent several hours with me. And the moral of the story was, if ever there was a time that made me start truly believing that I could do anything, and that as long as I was faithful and worked hard, I could do it, was that moment. And ultimately, I ended up getting laid off by ESPN, because I was in the great layoff of 2017. And even that was a blessing because, the CTO thought, okay, I'm going to make sure we give you a nice golden parachute. And he's thinking, I want you to heal and get your life in order. Because I wasn't the same. It took a while for me to get healthy again because I struggled with, if there were two competing sounds, I could not focus. And then after being laid off, and he really did me a favor because I had a chance to really heal, because I tried to come back way too early because, you're afraid you're going to lose your job. And in essence, that's what put me on the path as well, because I started to gain greater confidence in myself. And I started going after other positions higher than I had gone after before. And I was like, look, dude, if you overcome these things, getting a higher level position is nothing. So, and I share that because God is amazing. And I give him all the honor and glory and praise. And I'm not ashamed to share that because I think there's somebody out there that needs to know that you can achieve anything if you're willing to just put in the time and keep working and keep developing your network. And the other thing is you got to be willing to go other places. It is rare that you're going to get in a company that you're going to work your way all the way up. It's very rare.
Hey, family. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to another episode of the Leadership Sovereignty Podcast. We truly appreciate you, whether this is your first episode or you've been rocking with us since day one. Here at Leadership Sovereignty, our mission is simple: to bring you real stories, raw conversations, and timeless leadership wisdom from incredible guests to help you grow in your leadership and your career. But we can't do this without you. If today's episode inspired you, challenged your thinking, or gave you something to grow on, we want to hear from you. Visit our website at leadershipsovereignty.com and leave us a review and let us know how the show is impacting your journey. Consider making a donation, because every dollar helps us to continue producing this show with excellence. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Your support keeps the platform alive, and it helps us reach even more listeners, invite even more powerful voices to the table, and continue serving a growing community of purpose-driven leaders like you. So thank you for being the best part of this movement. Let's keep building, let's keep growing, and let's keep leading together. Now back to the show.
You're going to have to go gain other skills that'll help you increase your salary. It'll give you greater challenges. and you'll learn how to deal with different types of people. So, but
Feel
man,
amazing. Oh my gosh. I had to hold myself together, man, to be honest with you. I'm in awe of God, of course. I'm in awe of what I hear is, look, the challenge is not too great for God. It's just there's no challenge, no matter what it is, no matter what it is you're facing right now.
yeah,
The challenge is not too big for God.
that's true.
We have there's one responsibility we have. Believe.
Yeah.
Believe. If we just so I appreciate you sharing what you shared, man. And I really hope the richness and the transparency that you're sharing today really um, I know it's giving me confidence, further confidence to keep pursuing, those things that I'm pursuing, right? Because he knows. And look, if he's done it for one, he'll do it for another.
Well, the bottom line, gentlemen, is you're going to face challenges. And I'll tell everybody out there that's listening, and just like you said, there's no challenge greater than God. You're going to lose your job. You're going to get laid off. You're going to get sick. You're going to have problems. You must keep the faith. You must keep believing, and you keep
Right.
working.
Yeah.
And for me, look, we've gone through a lot of challenges, especially being a Dallas Maverick. Everybody knows our most recent challenge. But you don't stop. You
Yeah.
keep believing, you keep going, and good things are coming your way. And so, I was telling this to my son the other day, and because he had recently lost his job, and I was like, when one door closes, God's going to open another, and it's going to be bigger, better, bolder than you can imagine.
Yeah.
My daughter's going through that now, and I've told her, be still, calm down, trust God, just have a conversation, get in your quiet room, have a conversation, give this to him,
Yes.
let him take over, be faithful, be
Sure.
obedient, stop stressing. And, my wife, as lovely as she is, we talk about this all the time about, I always challenge her with, you don't have to worry.
Right.
We're going to have financial problems. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sitting here as a CTO and I've got financial problems. Of course I do, because I'm a human being. So you're going to have those challenges, but you don't stop. And that I'll tell any and everybody that if you want a profession that can take you around the world, have you be in the company of some of the most amazing people. I look at, working with the CIO of the Sands, Gideon Berkowitz, an amazing technology leader, or dealing with our owner, Patrick Dumont. And it's an honor to be able to listen to him and see this is how this dude rolls himself up and got himself in a position to run, one of the largest companies in the world, or dealing with our other owner, Miriam Adelson, who's a doctor, and how she got to where she got to, and seeing, or even being around somebody like a Mark Cuban and realizing that what's the difference between me and him? Nothing. The only difference is he had a vision and he put in the work and he was willing to take risks, and calculated risk, and he kept working. And when I've had the opportunity to talk with him, I'm blown away by some of the things that he said. Just the brilliance just exudes from him. But see, it exudes from all of us if we're willing to open our mouths, get out of our comfort zone, and then also get out of thinking the worst because we face adversity.
Yes.
As people of color, there's very few people that look like me and you in these positions.
Right.
And learning that you can do it, and that it's okay to be the only one, and that our role and our job is to pay it forward and to keep developing others. And I mean, I look at it like this. You guys have this podcast to inform, to educate, and to inspire people. And
Yes,
that's what
sir.
you're doing, and we've got to speak truth to everything that's going on in this world, and I know when we were talking earlier, when we were having a conversation about, well, what are those books and things that impact you? And I will tell you that of all the books I've read, of all the articles I've read, the book that has impacted me more than any book was the autobiography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley. And the reason why it impacted me, it is not for the obvious. It impacted me because this man's story, his journey, talking about his family, talking about watching his father murdered and lynched and his mother going crazy and the struggles he went through with drug addiction and slinging drugs and then finding the Nation of Islam and then the challenges he went through with being in a nation and dealing with jealousy and dealing with all the stuff he dealt with. And then finally realizing that some of the things that he was saying was not true, and that there were brothers out there that were much lighter than him, that were true brothers, that believed in God, believed in Allah, believed in the faith, and that when he got on the path and started realizing that I need to help mankind, a lot of people don't know
Right.
that the conversations that he had with Dr. King and how they became closer towards the end of his life. And he started realizing that it wasn't just one way to do things, and a lot of people don't know that even Dr. King was inspired by him and learning that, sometimes you do have to do things that may not be the norm, and this is close to me because my grandfather, was best friends with Dr. King's father. They lived right next door to one another.
Wow.
Uh, and
Wow.
and I'm gonna shame my aunt right now, so she's listening. You might as well accept it. My aunt used to bully Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he was little. You all right?
What?
I heard all the stories. She used to smack me
Oh
upside
my
the head.
gosh, amazing. That's amazing.
But the thing about it is that, I remember them telling me the stories of him and and that family and how they were raised and how they believed. So when I think about the impact that we have, speaking truth with compassion,
Yes.
being forthright, being honest, doing the right thing. I can't stress enough that there are no shortcuts. Everybody wants to get rich quick, and they take different paths, and there's nothing that beats hard work, faith, patience, and willing to accept challenges, learning to fail, and going for it. I'll tell people in a heartbeat that the majority of the interviews I've had in my life, I've gotten job offers because I've learned the art of turning the interview around, of letting them see inside of me, and if you don't mind, I'm going to share a question that I want people to master. Many people that have been in my coaching tree that are now working at Google and AWS and Apple, I've taught them this and they've used it very effectively. I'll tell the person in heartbeat, you want to turn the interview to the point where you're interviewing them, where you're asking them the questions. And one of the most impactful questions you can ever ask an interviewer, especially if it's a job that you're really interested in, is I'll say, if we're sitting at the dinner table and I'm your family member talking to you about this job, what would you say about this job and why should I take it? And what are the things that you haven't talked about? And help me as your brother understand what I need to know. And it's blown me away with how people will take that question and then they start getting real with you. You know, they drop the facade and they really start talking about that company and the things that they're doing. And you follow it up with, you know, thanking them and telling them that you just want truth. And it distinguishes you from the other people because
Gotcha.
you're competing with thousands of people. And when you do something to gain attention that is memorable, you know, they're going to hire the person or at least consider you a little bit more than you stand out from the rest of the crowd.
It's a great question.
So,
yeah,
That's
that's a great question.
great question.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
Phil, that's so, man, Ralph, I
I
know
still got
there,
some other points. I still got
I
some other
can
points.
I
still got some other
I got
points.
about, man, I don't know which way to go here. I don't know which way to go.
I've been patiently waiting and writing down my points.
Go ahead, Ralph.
I
Go
got
ahead, because I love your questions. Go ahead.
Phil, I got to get you to talk a little bit more about the self-talk. Right?
okay.
That's something that I've developed in myself.
Mhm.
It was something that I identified in myself. You know, why am I telling myself that I can't do this?
Yeah.
Right? You know, what was the driving force behind that? What should I be telling myself?
Mhm.
I've always been fascinated at successful people,
Mhm.
not to get what they get, but to understand how they think.
Yeah.
Right. So what are you telling yourself in these moments? So if you could just talk on self-talk a little bit, and then confidence versus arrogance. Right. Because we focus on, okay, we're gonna get right self-talk, we're gonna become real confident, but we've all seen those who have taken confidence and turned it into arrogance. Right. And it's impossible to be arrogant and to be a servant leader and to be humble.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll answer it this way, Ralph. The confidence comes with preparing yourself, with experiencing it, accepting those challenges, learning new things, and getting out of your comfort zone. When you practice those things you've learned and you start mastering them, then you become better at it and better at it. The difference between confidence and arrogance for me is humility. You don't need to tell yourself that you're the best at what you do. Others will do that for you.
That's good.
When you master your craft and you put in the work, you'll start getting recognized for it.
That's so good.
And I like to tell myself, as smart as I think I am, there are so many more people smarter than me, more talented than me, that are better than me. I believe in surrounding myself with the most talented people. And the biggest thing that I've had to face as a leader has been be comfortable enough to recruit people smarter than you.
Yes.
Surround yourself with them,
Key.
empower them, and don't get caught into your own ego. A lot of leaders I deal with, it's about them. And they can't stand being around somebody that's smarter than them. So you could imagine how I've had to face this in my career, where people look at you some kind of way because they see you got something a little special, and they think, oh, you know, I don't like this guy because he's going to get more than me. And that's a challenge that I face pretty much everywhere I've been. And I've had to learn how to tone it down a little, you know, because when you are the best at what you do, like I said, other people are going to tell you. And you have to be willing to keep trying new things because new challenges are going to humble you. You're going to fail, you know, and when you learn to be comfortable with failure, you know, I was once told that fail to the point where it doesn't take you out physically, where it doesn't kill you.
Right,
And
right. That's
if you
good.
can fail where it doesn't kill you, then learn the lessons and be open and honest with yourself and keep striving to get better. Now, the self-talk. We need to have the faith of David, King David.
Okay.
And King David has always been fascinating to me because here's a dude that was at the time a very small pipsqueak of a person, not known to be this great leader. And because he loved God so much,
Mm-hmm.
he was willing to step up when all these other warriors would not
Mm-hmm.
step up against Goliath. And he was willing to be humble enough to pick up a rock and his slingshot and go against this warrior who's in all his armor and his shield and his spear and his sword. And he ended up slaying him because of his faith.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Sovereignty Podcast. If this content blessed or helped you in any kind of way, support us today by subscribing to our YouTube channel, clicking the like button for this episode, and sharing this content with others that you think it will help. Until next time, stay safe, peace, and blessings.